Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are bringing some serious energy to decoding one of the most frustrating and honestly misunderstood psychological quirks out there: inappropriate laughter. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about. You're in a highly serious, maybe even super tense situation, and suddenly, out of literally nowhere, you get this uncontrollable urge to laugh or smile. It feels completely wrong, it makes things incredibly awkward, and it can leave you feeling pretty terrible about yourself. But what if I told you this isn't some weird personality flaw? It's actually a fascinating glitch in your brain's wiring. We are going to break down the science behind this and, absolutely most importantly, how to fix it.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want to start by setting up a little observation test right from our source material. So imagine a family, right? A mom, a dad, and their 3 sons. One day, the dad gives the mom some money, which she very carefully hides right under the mattress of their bed. Well, a little while later, she goes back to check on it, and some of the money is completely missing. Furious, she calls her 3 sons into the room for a really intense interrogation.
She starts with the youngest son. "Did you take the money?" she asks. He looks at her, dead serious, and says, "No." Okay, she moves to the middle son. He also looks completely serious and swears he didn't touch it. But then, she gets to the eldest son. When she asks him, he suddenly starts smiling, lets out this nervous laugh, and says, "I didn't take it either." Now I want you to guess who took the money. If you look at that behavior, your gut instinct probably screams option A, right? The eldest son, the guy who was smiling and laughing during a serious interrogation.
But here is the crazy twist. The narrator of our source story was actually that eldest son. And he was completely, 100% innocent. He hadn't touched a single bill. The core problem was just that in that incredibly tense moment, he simply couldn't stop laughing. And this didn't just happen once. It happened to him all the time. Whenever he needed to be serious, laughter would just bubble up, making him the prime suspect for literally every family mishap, and a total target for mockery among his friends. And the worst part? The harder he tried to suppress it, the harder he laughed. I mean, it makes you look uncaring, or actually scratch that, it makes you look terribly guilty, when in reality you're just trapped in your own head.
So what's actually going on here? Let's look at the brain's pressure release. First things first, we need to completely shatter a massive myth right now. If you laugh during a serious, tragic, or tense moment, it does not mean you're a bad person, it doesn't mean you're insensitive or that you lack empathy. The problem isn't your personality, it lies deep within your brain's emotional regulation system. You see, our brain doesn't just feel emotions, it acts like this highly advanced supercomputer that decides millisecond by millisecond which emotion is appropriate to express. Usually it's flawless, but sometimes a biological conflict happens. Your brain gets hit with 2 opposing signals at the exact same time. Signal 1 is screaming, "This is a very serious situation. You need to react carefully and respectfully." Meanwhile, Signal 2 is yelling, "I am incredibly nervous and uncomfortable and I need to release this intense mental pressure right now."
When those 2 massive signals crash into each other, the emotional pressure inside your brain spikes to critical levels. And every human brain handles that extreme pressure differently. Some people, they completely shut down into total silence. Some people suddenly burst into tears, and others, well, their brain triggers uncontrollable, inappropriate laughter. The absolutely crucial point here is that laughter isn't always about joy or humor. Very often, it is quite literally a misfiring pressure release valve in a highly stressed brain.
Which brings us to what psychologists call the focus trap.
Now that brings us to an obvious question. If our logical brain knows that laughing in this specific moment is completely wrong, why can't we just use our willpower to forcefully stop it? Why do we fail so miserably at just holding it in? And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why. I'm going to give you a very strict instruction right now. Do not think about the pink elephant. Whatever you do, do not picture a pink elephant in your mind. So, what just happened? Within a fraction of a second, your brain conjured up exactly what I told you not to think about. This proves how forced mental suppression actually backfires on us.
It's this painful psychological loop. Step 1, you command yourself, don't laugh. Do not laugh. Step 2, because you gave that command, your brain starts actively monitoring you to ensure you aren't laughing. It's constantly checking in. Am I laughing yet? Step 3, because your brain is now hyper-focused on the concept of laughter, that increased focus dramatically amplifies the urge to do it. The more forcefully you try to push the laughter down, the more mental energy you give it, making it infinitely more powerful.
All right, so how do we fix it? Let's dive into technique 1, emotion labeling.
So, if raw willpower and suppression don't work, what does?
Fortunately, there are scientifically backed psychological techniques to help you regain emotional control. Emotion labeling simply means identifying the true, hidden emotion behind your physical reaction. As we've established, the laughter is just a mask, right? Behind that inappropriate laughter hides a very real, very intense emotion. Maybe it's severe awkwardness, a feeling of deep shame, or just pure, unfiltered nervousness. But most people just try to fight the laughter itself, completely ignoring the root cause. And as long as the brain doesn't identify the real emotion, it'll keep using that faulty laughter shortcut to relieve the pressure.
So here's what you do. The next time you feel that terrible urge to laugh in a serious setting, stop fighting the laugh directly. Just pause for 2 seconds and ask yourself internally, what am I exactly feeling right now? Give it a name. Say to yourself, I'm feeling incredibly awkward, or I'm feeling extreme pressure. Scientifically, the very moment you name the underlying feeling, your brain shifts out of its blind panic reaction and moves into cognitive awareness. Naming the emotion instantly begins to reduce its raw intensity.
Moving right along to technique 2, shifting focus.
Let's be totally realistic here. Sometimes the pressure is just so high that merely labeling the emotion isn't quite enough to stop the physical urge to chuckle. This is all about breaking that painful brain loop we talked about earlier. You have to remember the attention rule. Where attention goes, emotional intensity grows. If you focus all of your remaining willpower on the singular thought of stopping the laugh, you're still feeding all your attention directly into that emotional loop. You're basically giving the laughter your brain's full spotlight. We have to take that spotlight and point it somewhere completely mundane. When that urge hits, you need to force your brain to feel your feet flat on the floor. Notice the exact pressure of where your shoes feel tightest. Lightly press your fingertips together and focus only on that tiny physical sensation. Or secretly start counting the rhythm of your inhales and exhales. By rapidly giving your brain a highly specific physical task, you are forcing it to reallocate its processing resources away from the emotional loop and into your physical senses. The brain simply doesn't have the bandwidth to monitor the laughter loop if it's intensely focused on the feeling of your toes in your shoes.
I really want you to remember this. Control is not about force, but changing direction. This is such a powerful takeaway. We aren't going to war with our own brains. We aren't violently suppressing our instincts. Instead, we're gently, strategically redirecting the brain's focus. It's a much kinder and, honestly, vastly more effective way to manage your mind.
And that leads us perfectly into technique 3, self-distancing.
Okay, so we've worked on identifying the emotion, and we've worked on shifting our physical focus. Now, we're going to shift the actual perspective from which you are viewing the entire stressful situation. Self-distancing means exactly what it sounds like. It's the practice of viewing a situation not through your own panicked eyes, but as an outside, completely neutral observer. When you're trapped in a moment of inappropriate laughter, you're usually deeply stuck inside your own head. Your internal monologue is screaming, "Everyone is looking at me. What will they think? I'm ruining this." That extreme self-focus acts like gasoline on the fire of your panic.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how it visualizes the mental shift. You want to switch from a first-person camera to a third-person camera. Stop thinking everyone is staring at me. Instead, mentally project yourself out of your body for a second. Ask yourself, if I were a random person standing in the corner of this room, how would I view this entire meeting? By stepping outside of yourself, you dramatically lower your own emotional intensity. You detach from the immediate threat, which signals to your brain that it is finally safe to power down that inappropriate pressure release valve.
So, to bring this whole shebang together, the next time you feel a laugh bubbling up at a funeral, in a really tough meeting, or during a heated argument, do not judge yourself. The problem isn't you. The problem is simply your brain processing the moment incorrectly. But now, armed with these 3 techniques, labeling the true emotion, shifting your focus to physical grounding, and distancing your perspective, you have the exact tools you need to gently hack that misfiring system and regain your composure.
Understanding all of this gives you absolutely incredible power over your own mind. But emotional control is a massive spectrum. Sure, you have now mastered your nervous laughter, but what happens when the stakes are different? Consider this provocative question from our source material. You've mastered your laughter, but who wins when your anger takes control? Laughter might make a situation super awkward, but a sudden lack of control over anger, that can ruin a day, a relationship, or even a career in 60 seconds flat. It's a whole different biological beast, and mastering it is just as crucial. But hey, that is a deep dive for another time. Thanks for